Hey, yo, what's up? This is Rick Thorne, the Biker in Black. Welcome to the show. On this episode, I got a really good friend of mine, Tony Lovato from the band Mest. I'm going to hit him up right now. Let's do this. What's going on, dude? What are you doing?
Rough night, buddy. Rough night.
What do you mean?
Fucking
What went on last night? It was rough. What's going on?
partied like a fucking not like a proper 9-year-old on a school night. Went to the Coast 103.5 private Christmas party at not what's the one across from Disney? California?
Wait. Why do you guys say? Why do you guys say private? Like I wasn't invited or something?
Because you weren't invited because it was
Woo!
no, it was fucking like a contest winners type of thing. Yeah,
Did
like
you
you
take your
call
fat?
in.
Yeah, go
What's
ahead.
up?
Tell me. Yeah.
That take my fat what? Is that what you said? That take my fat?
No, not you're not fat. It's your family, bro.
Oh,
Jeez.
my family, yeah.
Yeah,
My
yeah,
fat family.
yeah.
Yeah, it was me, my daughter Rebel, 18-month-old, son London, and son Dillinger, my wife, pregnant wife, who was in labor pretty much the whole time we were there.
Wait. So you have three and one on the way.
I have four and one on the way. Stepdaughter, Jaden, she couldn't go because there's a certain amount of tickets, so I have to give her an extra Christmas present.
Wow, you got a big family. I remember, dude. I remember talking to you specifically when you first were gonna have your first kid, and you
With
were
London, yeah,
super.
you went to the baby shower.
I did, and you were like not worried. You're like, I don't know, man. I'm just gonna, yeah. And I was like, yeah, well, you could always sell them.
Yeah, no,
No,
well,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's a joke. It's a
you could
joke.
re
It's a
you
joke.
no, you can return them, but up to it's like 3 days. I looked it up
Oh, is that the new thing? Is that the new deal?
at the hospital.
I'm just kidding.
Grace,
I'm kidding. But no, you were like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Like my life, like, you were,
I think if
like
you don't have those fucking questions when you're having your first kid, something's wrong with you. You know what I mean?
I had them. I still have
Like
them. Like, why'd I have these
everybody that
fucking?
I know that's having kids, a little bit later and stuff, they're just like, I'm like, you ready? They're like, I think so. I'm like, no, you're not. I'm like, you're never ready. That's the part of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be ready for like who fucking, especially like in our style of work and what we do, like who's gonna be like, fucking stoked, ready for a kid, bro? Like, no, you're not.
No,
You
no.
just go with it like everything else.
You do. And then when they turn teenagers, you're like, why the fuck do I have these things?
Yeah, well, it's sort of
It's
got that
another
going on.
joke. Ha,
No, none of these are jokes. Dude, jokes are funny because they're 50% real and 50% you're not supposed to laugh at.
I know this is true. Or you laugh at it because it's so true that you're like, dude, that's pretty funny.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, we got a my stepdaughter's 15, so
you get it.
entering that fun fucking world and then
Yeah.
I have a baby on the way to do on Christmas. I hope he
Boy or
comes
boy or girl.
little boy.
Oh, cool, dude.
So I hope that he comes either today or on December 14th. Because coincidentally, my son's name is London, who he's 9 years old.
Yep.
My baby boy, his name's going to be Clash. And the Clash released London Calling the single December 7th, 1972, which would be, I don't know, was it 42 years ago, and released the record London Calling like a week later on December 14th. So my son, London, The Clash, would be pretty fucking weird.
That's pretty cool, actually. I mean,
Pretty weird coincidence. Yeah.
I mean, it's better
It-
than if it was like, I mean, like if it was a Bee Gees or something, that'd be a different world.
or if he's born on his due date, I gotta name him Jesus Christ. So
It's true. It's true.
he's a fucking Christmas baby, due date at least.
So then he's
But
gonna have that birthday, like it's for your birthday and Christmas.
yep.
Oh man, I
hmm
feel bad for him already. Jeez.
I know, dude. We already decided half birthdays because it's bullshit, dude.
Yeah.
But
No, well, go ahead.
half birthdays now I get fucked because my birthday is June 20th, which is literally, but it's fine. He can have it, dude. I'm fucking old. I don't want birthdays anyways at this point.
Yeah, they get like there's no point of them now. It's just like, all right, cool. Then yeah, I'm
You actually
older.
don't want them this time.
Oh,
You know what I mean? It's like, it gets worse.
it does. It does. And it's weird with your kids too, because when kids are little, they're the raddest. Everything's new and everything's exciting. When they get older, it's just like it's still awesome. I love my kids. I talk so much shit, but I love my kids so much. We're super close. but things just change, you know, and even with the
Sure.
kids, birthdays change. Like at 17, my daughter, it wasn't like when she was 7, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
enjoy it, enjoy life. And it's just crazy to see you have such, not crazy in a bad way, but awesome. Like to see you have such a big family when, you know, you were like having all those questions about having your first kid. And then now you're just like, do you find yourself being more of a family man than you thought you were? Or were you always kind of like
No,
that?
I was always into I mean, I grew up in a household where I mean, tiny little house on the south side of Chicago. We were like, I was just talking with this to my buddy at the car dealership because I told him how many people were in my family and my dad's family and stuff. And this Mexican dude, and he's like, "Oh, you guys are like a Mexican family." I'm like, "Yeah, we were like the white Mexican family in a heavily Latino neighborhood, anyways." But yeah, like the kids that didn't have houses to live in, or like did not a lot of love in their homes, or whatever it may be, like lived with us and stayed with us. We had this tiny 2-bedroom house, but I had people that lived with us for like 7 years at a time, friends that would stay with us night after night. Like our house was the house. So I grew up around that type of environment. And then my father's from 11.
Wow.
So, and
Wow.
his
Okay.
his brother, my uncle bought the house that they all grew up in across the street from us. He actually bought that house, and like 4 cousins living there, 2 cousins down the block, like always been around it. So like to me it was always like one of those. It was weird though, like you said, like my son London's 9 years old, and he went to his baby shower. Um, he
Wow. 9
he's
years
my
already? That's crazy, bro. It's
yeah.
crazy.
I mean, he's my first, but and then my wife had two, and then now we have two together. So I sort of went from like 1 to 5
Yeah.
real
R-
quickly, but
real quick, dude.
had to sell that Cadillac and get that fucking Kia 7-seater, baby.
Soccer dad.
Fuck yeah, dude. It's as
Soccer
cool as you
mom
get though.
dad.
It's cool as you get for a 7-seater, man. That's all you're gonna get.
Hey, dude,
So
kids do that to you. I tell everybody, like you're worried about having a kid, or you're gonna have a kid, and you don't know what you're gonna do. And you just find a way to make it work. No one ever really tells you like you got to get rid of some things. You just, kids change. Kids obviously, if a kid doesn't change you, that's the problem. You know what I
for
mean?
sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
But you got a
Yeah, and
lot.
like my old man said it best too. Like I think I called him like fucking Christmas Day, like the 2013 before. He was the last person I told about London. And he's like, I can hear like hesitancy in your voice. I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm just like, this is new to me. I don't know what the fuck's gonna go on. And he was like, "You're good, dude." He was like, "When you and your brother were born, he was like, there's some shit I had to stop doing because I wasn't in a good place." He's like, "And I had to stop doing it for you guys." He's like, "You're good." He's like, what do you say? He goes, you don't have to change. This kid's just gonna add to your life. Like he's gonna,
Yeah.
like he's like, you're good. You're in a good place. You don't need to change who you are and what you're doing and shit. Like, so I was like, that was, made me feel once the old man's approval's there, then you're like, okay,
Yeah,
I'm
well,
all right.
he's right. If you're in a good place, then you just, they,
Yeah.
for me, I remember, I think I might have told you this, but for me, kids just pushed you to say, all right, let me get on my game even more for what
Oh,
I
for
love to
sure.
do. Instead of like losing my identity, like I don't take you as this way neither, but you can't lose your identity just because you have kids. You still got to have your own identity in the things that you do. You're just working overtime because you got kids now, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's
Have you
like,
found that hard for yourself though? Like staying like as, a musician and pursuing your dreams musically and being consistent as much as you can. You never walked away from it, right? Have you found that to be difficult, or is that just something that, like I
no,
said, you work
I like
overtime?
you, like, I think, like you said, yeah, it's definitely good. It's like overtime shit where you're like, every time I fucking add a kid to the group, I gotta add a tour to the year. You know what I mean? I gotta pay for that shit. So, but
Exactly.
no, like it's definitely like, yeah, it's hard though, because for me, like I guess emotionally, it's that fine line of okay, I need to work and I know that, right? So any opportunity I get to work, I'm fucking, which I would do anyways, whether or not I had kids, because it's what we do, right? We gotta make money when we can because we ain't got no fucking 401k. But
Right.
there's always that like fine line of like, am I away from home too much and not spending enough time with my kids? Because there is that balance too. You know what I mean? You can't like just because you're paying the bills doesn't give you an excuse to be an absent father, which
Yeah.
I'm not in any way, but I'm saying, you know what I mean? Like I don't think, there's dads that make fucking $500,000 a year doing whatever fucking corporate job they do, and it's like they take the family on vacation once a week or once a year, and then it's like okay, everything's good. It's like kids growing up without. So I want to make sure that I'm there as much as I can be too. So, but yeah, it's definitely a balance and definitely pushes you to like you got to keep doing what you're doing, you know, like. And
Yeah.
I think kids too, for me at least, I've always said this, like give me an excuse to keep my youth going, to be, you know what I mean? Like it's fun, like doing the Disneyland shit, or like being with my 12 and my 9-year-old, and they're like getting into like certain jokes that are inappropriate. I'm like trying to like discipline them at the same time as like laughing with them. Like, all right, it's funny, but like don't be saying that shit in public. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's the balancing act, I guess you'd say.
Well, and what's crazy about that, you're absolutely right. And what's crazy is I'm going through the phase now where, my daughter's 17, my son's 15, my daughter's a
Whew.
senior. It's going to be like, they're going to be living their life. And they have, especially my daughter, she got a car and then it's like, bye-bye, they're living their life and adjusting for me. Cause I was a single parent and being so
Yeah,
heavily involved with your kids. There's a time where you're like, they keep you young, but then now I'm like, okay, now I'm realizing that my kids are like, going to move on or not move on, but, become their person who they got to be.
for sure.
And then I got to find ways to keep myself young solo now. Cause I've been, dude, you know what I mean? So it's like, I
Yeah,
tell anyone that has the young ones, enjoy the ride, man. I'm telling you, because it may seem exhausting or whatever, but when it's over, you're like, you miss it. You know what I mean? If
absolutely.
you really care
Yeah.
about your kids,
I
you
mean,
miss it.
even with London being 9, I already feel that way. Like where I'm like, because when me and my wife got together, it was like 4 years ago, about 4.5 years ago, he was that 4 or 5 years old.
Right.
And now he's like 9, and like he all of a sudden had his little best friend. So I've had like 4 years of like him hanging out with her son, who they're like, which is great for them, have like the little best friend. I mean, they do everything together. But I'm sort of like, fuck, like those past 4 years, like I feel like I missed out on a lot sometimes. It's probably
Right.
me over doing the overthinking type of shit. And then with having the 18-month-old and the fucking baby on the way, I'm like, I told my wife, I said, we have to make sure that these kids know that like they're still loved and we keep them involved with everything, because they're gonna go out and start doing on shit on their own anyways. And I'm like, I need them to stay involved. Like I don't want to miss out. Like you said, it goes by. I mean, your son at my baby shower, which was what, fuck, 9 years ago. How old is he? So he was like 5 years old,
5, 6 years
right?
old. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember he's a little ass dude. So like
Yeah. My daughter must
last
have
time I
been
saw him,
7.
he was fucking taller than me when you brought him to the house. Like dude's fucking huge.
He's even taller now. It's crazy. It's crazy. But, I'm just proud, I guess, with all this talk about family and stuff, I'm like super proud of you because, you're doing it and you've been able to maintain your identity and the things that you love. And I know from experience that stuff ain't easy. And I don't think a lot of people understand that, but you can do it. Anyone out there listening, you can still follow your dreams and have kids. It's just, it's a different trip. And
For
do you
sure.
find do you find that balance though to be difficult? Because we talked about briefly, like going on a tour and stuff like that. But like when you're home, you're not hanging out with your friends as much. You're with your family.
Yeah, I think,
Things change, right?
yeah, I think
Obviously.
I think I probably make it a point that when I'm on the road, it's like, okay, I don't have to get up early to take a kid to school. I ain't got to change a shit diaper. I don't have to bring him to an after school program. I don't have baseball games to go to. Um, and it's like, wake up, sound check, play a show, hang out with friends, like
Yeah.
I get to pretend I'm in my early 20s again. Um, So I do that and I make sure I have a good time so that when I'm at home, I'm like, okay, I'm home. This is a different life. This is waking up at 6. Like today, my son didn't even go to school because of the Disney fucking thing we did. But waking up at 6:30 every morning, dude, I didn't fucking go to like as a kid, I got kicked out of school when I was 15. So waking up at 6:30 in the morning for me every day fucking sucks. I've never done that my entire life, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
kids got to get to school. So this is what I do. So yeah, when I'm at home, it's home life, and out on the road, it's fucking hang out with your friends and act like, you know.
Oh, I think I lost you there for a second. Where'd you go? Hold on a second. Can you hear me? I lost the audio with you. Where'd you go? Hello? Can you hear me? I can't hear you. That's weird. What's that? What happened here? Where'd you go? No, 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 no. Hmm. Stay tuned. We have a little audio issue here. Okay, hang on a second. What's up, bro? What happened?
This works.
There you go. That's it right there.
Want to use that?
Yeah, we got it.
Okay.
Uh,
I don't know. Something just fucking randomly cut out on my computer. It's a brand new
whatever,
MacBook
whatever,
too.
dude. It's cool that we could
Bullshit.
do. I choose to do Zoom on podcasts because I feel like, you know what, dude? Like I like to be in person, but like I'm DIY, bro, with this podcast, and I got a lot of listeners on the Spotify more, the audio, and the videos is growing. So like I kind of like the Zoom, but so I'm kind of used to these bugs and stuff. Shit happens, but it's kind of cool we could do this. Um, but we were talking about like graduation. Did you ever go back and get your GED, or did you not graduate? And
Nah, I
I don't mean to
never.
focus on that. I'm just saying that like do you see yourself like with your kids, you're going to be like, no, dude, you're graduating.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, right? That's the fucking it's the
Yeah.
proper thing to do. Like, just because I fucking didn't care doesn't mean I still have to try to implicate the proper things on them. I just, dude, I was just a fucking troubled teen. I was the idiot, like,
Like what? What were you
and
doing? Like just
I just
stupid
got in a
shit.
lot of trouble, dude. Like, just a lot of fights, and just I really didn't give a fuck about school. I just never did. I was in like all the gifted classes. I was like the smart kid all through life. And then I just hit a point where like maybe it wasn't challenging anymore, maybe it just wasn't interesting. I don't know. And so right when I was around, once I entered high school, and I realized like you go walking past like the front doors of the high school, and I was like, I could just walk out that bitch and maybe get a detention. Like there was something fearful about you know you didn't skip school in middle school. You don't ever fucking just ditch school. In high school, it was just like, yo, you guys want to leave? And we could just, I don't know why that fear went away. Maybe because the disciplinary part of it wasn't
Or you
shit.
just got older and you're like, you just go through that phase, you know, your
Yeah.
rebellious phase.
And yeah, so I just fucking freshman year, I convinced the school to let me do the work program, even though I wasn't old enough for the work program. So I had the work program hours. So I'd go to school at 8 and get out at 12:30. And
Got it.
they're like, you can do that this year. But then sophomore, junior, and senior year, you have to go the full days and you have to pass every class in order to actually graduate on time. I'm like, fuck yeah, I got this. I didn't pass any class in my freshman year. Sophomore year, I was like, yo, I'm like, I want to do that shit again. They were like, there's not a chance. And like, and you got to do summer school. And I think it was within 3 months I was fucking expelled. And I was like 15 sophomore year. uh out of this what is it, 20 days in a month that you actually go to school because you have weekends. I think I missed like 31.
Oh,
So it was like
wow.
half the fucking time. And I was just done, dude. I was just fucking I remember my old man, he's all like, what are you gonna do? What do you want to do? And it was right when we were starting the band. And I was like, I want to play music. And he's like, well, if you want to play music, then you have to do it. Like you have to. And I was like, all right. And I remember when I was 16, I asked him, I was like, yo, I want to, like, I lived in Chicago. So the thing is like, move out to California, like that's where all the record label guys are and shit, all that. And I was like, I think I want to take the band out to California. And I was 16, and he was like, all right. He's like, if you want to do it, you got to be prepared to like get your shit together. And he was all for it because he wanted to do it as a kid, and then he ended up being a machinist and working a normal job. So it was like, why would he tell me not to do it, so to speak? But never ended up having to come to California. Just pretty much, you know, made our made our scene in Chicago and got noticed there and everything. But yeah, man, I definitely with the kids, it's like I'm gonna push the proper, like I don't even know if they don't know I graduated. They might not know that I didn't graduate yet, but certain things we try to hide from the kids as long as we can.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I was just asking because when I was growing up, my mother, she had 8 brothers and sisters and only one graduated. And so, I was from Kansas City. So for us graduating, that was a big deal. And so I was just kind of like wanted to do that for my mom because it was like, you know what I mean? And so here
Yeah.
I am with my kids and I'm telling my daughter, hang on. I know you don't want to be in school, but you got like 6, 7 months and then you're like out, you know what I mean? So just handle it, just get through it. You know what I mean? Cause in high school too, it gets really restless at that age, you know, you get, you
Yeah.
know, it's like a holding pattern kind of like you're not legal enough to be on your own, but you're kind of like, well, what more am I going to learn here that I'm going to, you know what I mean?
Right.
Depending on what you want to do in life. And I'm not
Right.
saying
That's
don't,
true.
I'm not saying ditch school or leave school. Anybody listen, don't get it twisted. Everybody's different, but I just want to focus on that because I feel like you're going to do better, not better, but you know what I mean? Push your kids, but you got to also let your kids be who they're going to be. It sounds like your dad just supported you regardless.
Yeah, my parents were fucking always supportive with everything I did. I mean, my parents were supportive to the point of like, I think the first time I was brought home in a cop car, I was like 8 or 9. And like my grandpa came out of the house and just went off on a police officer, like, what the fuck is my grandson doing in your car? You know, like cops would chase me to the back door, and I knew if I got inside my house, they couldn't touch me. Remember, we had this one cop named Walrus chased me down the tracks up around my house. I got inside, I fucking shut that screen door, and I was like, fuck you, motherfucker. I remember I was like 15, 16 years old. My dad comes walking around the kitchen and sees fucking Walrus standing at our back door. My dad's like, get the fuck out of my yard. You know, like they supported everything. We didn't like cops in my neighborhood. We had a pretty bad relationship. We're cool with them now, but back in the day, it wasn't good.
Right. Were you from, was the neighborhood kind of like a, what type of neighborhood was it? Was it like a working class neighborhood? Was it, you
What's
know,
that show? Fuck, there's a show on is it Showtime that's based on the south side of Chicago.
not
And
sure.
oh fuck. Dr. Cohen. Um
You still taking those pills?
gotta fucking gotta take that gotta keep that brain straight, bro. I'm trying to think of what the fucking my
I
wife
don't
was
know it, but I'm sure our listeners probably do.
anyway, so it's based on like south side of Chicago, and that's very much like based on Blue Island where I grew up. Blue Island was established before Chicago. Um
Blue
there's like
Island was established before.
yeah, Blue Island was
Oh,
established before Chicago even, and
what's
it's
the
just
population of that city? Is it super small?
40,000 maybe, something like that.
But back
35,
then it was probably
40,000.
half of that, huh?
Well, it stayed pretty much the same. It's never like, it
Yeah.
is what it is. Like it was populated and that's as many as we could probably fit in this motherfucker.
Right.
But but uh but yeah, I mean it's a generational town where you know the last names of families that grew up, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
um like Gary Sinise, Lieutenant Dan.
Yeah. Yeah. Is he from there?
Yeah, he's my cousin.
He is?
Yeah, real life cousin. Yeah.
Wait, no, wait. And is Demi your cousin too?
Nah, there's rumors, but I doubt
Look, I
it.
looked that up online, bro. Wait,
Somebody sent me some shit and said that we were. I
it
was like,
says, it
I
says
got,
Tony Lovato is a
uh,
cousin of pop star Demi Lovato.
I mean, that's a symbol of somebody looking at a last name and writing some shit on the interweb.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna say if you guys were, like I don't know if she's into bike riders and shit, but I was gonna maybe put a good word in for me or something. You know what I'm saying,
I could,
Tony?
I mean,
You know what
I
I'm
could
saying, Tony?
try.
You know what I'm saying, Tony?
I could.
I got this split personality in me called Tony. It's Tony, but it's not
I've seen
you.
it.
It's like,
I've seen it before.
yeah, shit. So Tony, hook it up, Tony. You know what I'm saying?
It happens when you're driving sometimes.
All the time, road rage.
That's actually the angry one though. When you see cars without the driver without the license on
That's
the.
when that's because you're getting delusional in LA traffic because you're always in your freaking car. Okay. Anybody that wants to move to LA, get ready if you want to, because you're gonna be in your car all the time.
I avoid it as much as possible, man. I fucking hate it.
I know LA's crazy. So Gary is your cousin.
Yeah.
Wow. So do you like have you talked to him and stuff? Or you
Never,
guys?
nope, nothing like that.
Oh no.
I know we're fucking related on my mom's side. It's like third cousin or some shit. Like his cousin, his grandfather was my grand great grandfather's cousin, some shit, something like that. I don't know. I got like old family photos and
I
shit.
knew he was probably like a Midwest kind of like dude because he's all about the veterans and stuff, I think, right? Doesn't he do a lot with the
Yeah,
veterans?
he does better stuff. He's in that band and shit, the Lieutenant Dan band and stuff. And
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, dude, he's my cousin. That's all I know is we're related.
Wait,
Went to
we're
school.
talking about the same dude from Forrest Gump, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. I was making
Gary
sure.
Sinise. Yeah.
Not Gary Busey.
No, not Gary
Oh,
Busey.
okay. Just making sure. Hey, so let's talk about your music, dude. Okay, you're coming out of Chicago. You're from a little town. You decided school wasn't your thing. You want to start a band. You got to be confident as all hell to do that. You got to like be like, okay, how are we going to do this? Because this is probably years before what the internet is now, right? And
Yeah.
and how things. So, what was that like starting that with that kind of like confidence of going, I'm going to do this?
I mean,
Because
music
it
had
takes a
always,
strong person to do that. You know what I'm saying?
well, yeah, when you're like really pursuing it, but see, to me, it was always just like a hobby. It was supposed to be fun. And
Right.
um, I mean, the first band I was in, I was 7 years old. It was me, my brother, and my cousin. And because we had basements in the Midwest, you know this, like we
Yeah.
grew up with basements. Um,
Because of them
so
tornadoes, man.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and so we had like drum sets and amps and guitars in our basement because my dad was a musician. So from a young age on, we would just go down there and fuck around, and then we got our own instruments, started our own band, and we would like try to play like Judas Priest covers and Rolling Stone covers and just shit like that. My dad sort of raised us on, that was around the house. Um, we did it absolutely terribly, undoubtedly. I could not play the guitar. I played it like a bass, like single note, but I was fucking 7 and trying to sing at the same time. And we did like one concert for the neighborhood where we invited all the kids inside, charged them a quarter each.
No, did you?
Swear to God, yeah.
How many
I
kids
mean,
showed up? You think? Could you make $5 or some shit?
there's like maybe like 8 kids there.
So what, you made $2?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
We split
bad.
it 3 ways, and then my dad took 20%, my mom took 15, but you know what I mean? They were getting us ready for the music business. Every
Did you guys
fucking
sell any merch? Right? Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have any merch yet.
Oh
Which
yeah.
then
Okay.
which then Live Nation would have taken like 20%, you know what I mean?
Oh, they
So
were getting ready for the music.
yeah. Uh
Give
but
me
yeah, so then we
20%, son, to that
yeah,
$2.
we were getting you ready for the big leagues.
Yeah, right.
So then we had the kids write notes to give us like, like write down your thoughts so we could like improve. And like every single note just said that I couldn't sing. So I was like, there goes that. And then no joke, I switched over to drums after that. I was like, fuck this. So I went and learned how to play the drums, and I did that for a couple of years.
They were just
Uh,
hating on you, bro. That's what happens when you're good at something. People say
they
you're not good
yeah
at it.
they
Yeah.
saw a shining star and they didn't know what to
And they're
do.
like, no, they can't handle this. He can't be a star as well. That's not gonna
Yeah,
happen. So you suck, dude. You suck.
not in our neighborhood, bro. But yeah, so I always played in bands growing up. We did like the alternative bands and rock bands and covers and shit like that. Bounced around on instruments. Um, but then yeah, we started it just to have fun because
Right.
it was just another band because we were always having bands. And uh, there was a pretty cool scene happening in Chicago at the time, um, with like pop punk and ska and shit like that.
What year
So
was
this
this? Wait, sorry to cut you off. What year?
we started the band in 95,
Okay. All right.
October 95. So we're
Got it.
pretty fucking old. Uh, Band's pretty old. I'm pretty old. Um, but yeah, so started in 95, and that's when like, you know, fuck man, you think about like what was those 3 records that came out in 94, which was like I think it was Rancid, Let's Go came out in 94, maybe 93 even. Dookie came out,
Yep.
No Effects is what's the record called? Linoleum or some shit, right? That's the song that's on it.
And that year it was like Green Day and The Offspring were like on the radio. Pretty
Yeah,
sure. Those were
yeah.
like punk, what's this punk stuff? It's like it was
Yeah.
new to the mainstream.
But right. And then
That's the same year the first X Games was out. First year for Warp Tour. So it was like that year was like
was 95 the first year, right?
yeah,
When it
95
was
was
like
first
real
year.
small.
95
And
was
then
first year for Warp Tour and the X Games.
but it wasn't Vans Warped Tour, right? 96 turned into Vans Warped Tour.
Yeah, I think in the early days, I think it was just Vans had sponsored it, but I think they didn't. I could be wrong, but I don't think that they own it now. But I don't think that they owned it back then. I think they were just the title sponsor.
I got a fun fact about that, but that's a Caballero story that he should. I don't know if he wants to. Vans Warped Tour is Vans Warped Tour because of Caballero, but I can tell you that story off the air, which is a pretty rad story that Cab told me.
Oh yeah, he told me the same thing. I know that story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's fucking
yeah,
that's pretty rad.
that's pretty rad.
Um,
Yeah, absolutely. Because well, he's a musician too, so he saw this like, wanted to collab it.
yeah,
So
it's
and so,
crazy.
anyways, back to your band. Back to okay, so it's
Um,
1995. You've been
yeah.
beating on the drums. You're like, I'm gonna sing now. Let's do this band.
Yeah, so I switched over. Fucking got kicked out of school right around that time, which was October 95.
Got it.
Um, so I picked up the guitar again, decided that's what I was gonna do was play guitar, sing, and write songs. And just started doing it, and we started writing songs. It was me, my brother, my cousin, and our drummer Nick at the time. And we just fucking started writing songs, demoing. Um, and then I think like there's like a little local battle of the bands in the neighborhood. We played that. We won that. And then there was a little venue on the south side in a town called Homewood called Off the Alley, and that was like the punk rock little fucking rad club. Fireside Bowl on the north side, and then we'd rent like VFW halls and put on shows ourselves. And like I said, like there was a handful of bands, at the time that were like decent enough to constantly put on shows, and like kids would show up, and we're 15, 16 years old, 17. And it was just fun, dude. It was like, we were sort of like the punk rock bad kids, so to speak, because like my dad would let us use his truck, and we'd put up all of our equipment in the truck, in the back of it, but underneath in the middle was a keg. So we would be the bands that would sneak off and fucking, always be constantly going outside, drinking in the alley and shit. Like, and so we got a reputation for that type of shit. I mean, the band name is Mest, which is literally you take the M from Milwaukee, put it over the B, Milwaukee's best beer. That's how we got our band. So, we were
Is
fucking,
that how you got the name? Really?
yeah, yeah.
Oh
So,
wow,
I mean,
I
we
never
were,
knew that. All right, okay.
yeah. But yeah, so we started doing a local thing immediately. Like, once we had a handful of songs, I think my dad probably gave us a couple $100, and we went into a studio, recorded our first cassette demo, and then from there, yeah,
Cassette.
actually, you know what? Look at this. This isn't on purpose, but
No,
I,
I
s-
want it to be on purpose. Let
I
me see
still
this.
fucking, let's see if I have the.
Wow, I haven't seen one of those in a long
Look
ass
at this
time.
shit. I'll
Look at
show
that.
you.
What?
I'll show you what we did back in the day.
Those cassettes are dope, dude. I used to have, man, any kids out there, cassettes were like the bomb
So
before
this is what we
CDs.
did back in the day, which I still have. Actually, I still produce them because people, it's like a collector's item.
Yeah, they kind
This
of made a
this is
little
our
comeback.
fucking. This is our
What was
cover
that?
thing. We had to figure it out. So I cut it out, fold it up, baby, and then you fucking put it in here, and it's your fucking jacket for the thing. Still make them and sell them on our merch page.
Oh, wow, that's cool. DIY edits. I love it. I love it, man.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's got
So
to be
that's
cool
it.
for your fans to get. 'Cause that's pretty
Well,
unique.
yeah,
That's
that's
cool.
why I reproduce them because I'm like, it's like it's the first fucking songs we recorded and shit, like, and they're not terrible. They're not obviously the best, but they're not. For being 16 years old, I could, it shows I think the potential of what the band was doing. But after that, then
Absolutely.
we went back in the studio, and we kept recording like a bunch of demos here and there, and finally we compiled like 17 songs and burnt our first CD, and put that out and just started hustling in Chicago. And I came up with a plan where, um, there's like that concept of like try to expose yourself as much as you can, play as much as you can, get in front of as many people as you can. And I took a different approach where I was like, I feel like, and this even applies to now touring now in a professional band consistently, of oversaturating a market. And I was even thinking that shit back then, where I'm like, dude, we're just in Chicago here, and there's only so many towns around us that we could play, and it could be eventful. But if we're playing every weekend and we're pushing shit every weekend, it's just, well, I'll see him next week. I'll see him next weekend. I'll see him next weekend. It doesn't become a thing. So once we got to a certain status of a band where people knew who we were, we had put music out. I sort of took the approach to the band where I said, hey, why don't we just fucking chill, find a show maybe every 2 weeks or once a month that is an event, so we can get all of our people to come out and see us at least once a month, so that no matter where we're going, it's showing something. Um, Instead of just being the band that's on every fucking bill every weekend in every place. And because then you become that band that's like people want to go see.
Yeah,
So we sort
you're not oversaturating yourself, I guess, right?
right.
Does that sound?
Um, and
Yeah,
I
I get
mean,
it.
So in the very beginning, obviously, I say play a lot, play, as much as you can. 'Cause but we were at a point where we had been a band for a couple of years and released a couple things. And we got to the point where we were the band that would open up for the national touring bands. I was working at UPS at the time. I met a guy that worked there that worked at the Metro in Chicago. He helped me get on a couple shows. And then they saw that we were worthy of being that band anyways. So whenever bands were coming through and needed a local band to bring, 100, 200 kids, we could do that. But that gave us that status. So it was like a slow build of, where you are on the fucking totem pole.
Exactly,
Um,
exactly.
so when we got to that status, um, it was that, and then me just going to every show. And I don't know, like kids and band members definitely do this now. And I experienced it when I was on the road. And I don't know if it was like sort of because I always did that and then people heard our story, but like giving CDs to every band member I ever met and just like pushing the band on other bands. That was like my thing when I was like 15, 16 years old. I'd be flyering our shows. I would always make very, very inappropriate flyers too. Um, and to the point that one time that we were doing a Q101 show, which is the K Rock of Chicago, I guess you'd say. And we were doing a Q101 sponsored show. And so I made these gnarly, gnarly flyers. I was like, fuck, how old was I? I was probably like 17 years old. And I found this photo of this like three old dudes sucking each other off and like old dudes. So I put little stars over the cocks so that at least you couldn't see the dicks. Well, that actually I think the first one I didn't do anything to it, but I would put the band names right above the dudes like Mest, and I think it was like Show Off at the time, and can't remember the other band, and they're like you can't do that. Um, and so then I was like, well, perfect. Then I'll put a star over the cock sucking part, but you can still see what was happening. And they were like this dude James Van Oslo, who was a DJ at the time, he called me up and he's like, dude, he's like, I saw the flyers. He's like, you still you still can't be passing those out to people and shit. But it was always just like fucking around and
But you're trying, yeah, I understand what you're doing. You're like just you're shocking them, and you're like, oh, what's this
somebody's gonna
band? Yeah, I
right.
got
You're
you.
gonna
I
look at
got
that flyer and remember that name,
you.
if anything, or it's gonna be like, what the fuck is this? And as opposed to just getting a flyer and it's
Well, that's kind of like the old black. I mean, similar, but it's the same concept of like think about when you look at all those like old like black flag flyers. You know what I mean? You're like, what is going on these flyers? You know what I mean?
I'd have to see your references to understand this. Was there cocksucking going on
No,
with those
no,
things
not
too?
that. It wasn't a sexual thing. It was more kind of like a, just dark. It was dark, so it made you
Shocking
kind of,
shit.
yeah, just it was violent. We would say
Mhm.
not violent, but you know what I mean? It just made you think like, what is this band? And
Right.
that's why they're,
Grabs the interest, which
yeah,
is
yeah. I mean, that's why they're Black Flag. But so you built it and it was different, back then, but it was also too a lot about like word of mouth and networking. And so when a band comes through that you're opening up for, obviously you want to like say, hey man, take it serious for more gigs, right? So
yeah.
it's like a street hustle, like you're out on the street just trying to you promote your stuff. No one's helping you. When did you get to that point where you're like, okay, we've been opening up for these bands, that headliners that come through, and now we're going to the next level. Like from there, even to where then you said, okay, when did you do? Because I met you on Warp Tour, but did you tour around a lot before Warp Tour, or was that
Yeah,
like
I
your
mean, because we
first?
met in fuck, we probably met in '02 on Warped Tour.
Something like that. I remember
Well,
it was funny is we met on stage and I was with me, you, and Benji from Good Charlotte. I remember this. And I was like, I'm gonna stage dive. And I go, you guys gonna stage dive? And you guys are like, yeah, we can stage dive. And then I forgot who was playing and I ran and stage dive and I turned around, you guys were just still standing there, and I was like, these mother, you guys didn't jump with me.
I jumped,
You
and
did?
we were told not to do it too. I don't know if it was
Oh, you
Brian
did
or
jump? Then it was
yeah,
Benji that didn't jump.
it was Benji that didn't jump. I think it was it was
Mother.
I don't know if it was Teal or if it was Brian that was
Oh, that's right. You did jump. That's right. You did. Okay, my bad. It
one
was
of them
Benji
didn't
that
want
didn't
us.
jump.
Yeah, one of them didn't want us going, and I think we went anyways. But
Oh,
that was '02. We weren't on that. I think went to that show just to hang with everybody. And '03 was when we first did it.
right.
Um, and I think maybe the first time we actually met was the fucking Boom Boom Huck Jam. I
Oh,
think
that's right. Yeah, I
I was at one
remember.
of those hanging out with the boys and you were there. But yeah, so we started, it was around 90 fucking 8 maybe.
Right. I'm listening
And
to you. Yep. Keep going. Sorry.
gave some music to Feldy from Goldfinger. He had just started producing bands.
So
I
did he
didn't
come
know
through?
that.
Did he come through Chicago?
Yeah, he came through Chicago. Uh, and they did a surprise show at Fireside Bowl, which is the little 300 bowling alley capacity place. After the show, I was just like, "Yo, dude," I'm like, "You said next time you guys were in town that we could open up for you guys. You guys are here." I go, what do I have to do to open up for you next time after this?" Because he's like, "Oh, sorry, man." He was working with the band that was opening up for him at the time, anyways. A friend of mine, um, who was included in that flyer of the old guys sucking each other off. Because they were a local band that we had been playing shows with all the time, for years. But anyway, so he was like, "Here, dude," grabs a fucking pen and paper and writes down his home phone number and goes, "Keep in touch with me." I'm like, "Okay." So it was his real home phone number. So we kept in touch. We opened up for them maybe 6 months to a year later or so. And we had obviously grown within a year of that time too.
Right.
And I recall him after the show being like, "Dude, that was really good." He was like, "You guys got a lot of fans here, huh?" And it was rad. Like we were playing our songs and like, it was a sold out 1700 people House of Blues. But when the fans were singing when we were a local band at the time still, right? So like, but the crowd singing our words was loud as fuck in this massive place where I was even like, "Whoa, dude, like this is cool." Like
Yeah. That feeling
everybody,
of
like,
like, let's go.
yeah,
Yeah.
like so I think John saw that, and that's, you want to see it in one market first before you're like, will this work in other markets, obviously, right? If you can build a community and a fan base in your hometown, that shows that you can then, this will work everywhere else. But you got to do at least in one spot. We did it in Chicago, and John saw that. Um, he asked me to keep sending him new songs. I sent him demos anytime we'd record shit. That was another thing I told the band. I'm like, "Hey, we gotta relax on playing live. Let's start writing fucking songs." This dude who fucking signs bands and produces bands wants music. I go, "So we should just be consistently writing songs because he's gonna if we want to go to the next step on the fucking totem pole, it's a record deal. It's
Yeah.
getting
Exactly.
produced by." And the guys were always like, "No, we should just keep playing." Like nobody ever wanted to follow the lead. And thankfully, I was just like, "Well, this is what we're doing." So, kept writing songs. Eventually, got the phone call from him like 3 in the morning at my girlfriend's house. Um, Her mom's like, "Hey, there's some old guy John on the phone for you." And I'm like, "All right." Like it's like 3 in the morning in Chicago. I don't think he realized the time difference. And he's all, "Hey man, you still got that band?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "All right, in a couple months," he's like, "I'm gonna have some time." He's like, "I'll get you guys out here and we'll do a demo for Maverick." He's like, "I'll secure a demo
Awesome.
deal."
Well, for Maverick, what? Sick.
Yeah. And so I was like, I'm like, "All right, cool, man." Like, it was just random because it wasn't set up yet. But he was like, "In a couple months, I'll get you guys a demo deal and we'll fly you guys out here." I'm like, "Okay, another couple months." I'm like, it's the hurry up and wait game.
Yeah.
So I think I
Yeah.
probably told that to the dudes too, and they probably were still like, "Yeah, it's not gonna happen." Like they were pretty fucking negative Nancy about everything. But
Well, I mean, sometimes it could be that way, bro. It takes one person to have the vision, right? Other people just,
for sure, there's definitely, I think in most bands, there's always one sort of leader that sort of steers the fucking ship.
Yeah,
But yes,
absolutely. Absolutely.
so long
That's funny though. He
story.
probably called you before cell phones, so he called you on a home phone.
Yeah, no, that's why my girlfriend's mom
Ah,
answered. and
that's
and
awesome.
it was like 2 in the morning, and she's like, "Why the fuck is our phone ringing?"
That's
And we're like
awesome.
sitting in a little TV room downstairs, and she's like, "Hey, Tony, there's a guy John on the phone for you." And I'm like, "The fuck?" I'm like, "What's up, dude?" And he's like, "Hey, you still got that band?" And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, but why 2 in the morning and why my girlfriend's
Yeah,
house?"
you're criddling and shit. What's going on?
Yeah, but so yeah, so eventually the 4 months came. We flew out to California. I remember, John Reese, obviously.
Oh, yeah,
John
absolutely. Absolutely.
John Reese picks us up from the airport. Actually, we missed our first flight because we had a party the night before, got hammered, woke up in the morning, missed our flight. Uh, just shows the ungratefulness of like you're on the brink of like doing something, and like, but you're still, I'm 19 years old, so like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
I get it. I get it. Yeah.
you fuck up. But and as we made our way out to California, we recorded 4 songs, got sent back home. got a call about a week later, and they're like, all right, yeah, we're gonna do a record. And I was like, all right, cool, man. Like, it's not
That's
the
bad.
typical way.
That's badass though.
Yeah,
That's
not the
badass.
typical way that bands get signed by any means. You know what I mean? Like normally it's like, especially if you live out in LA, you're playing in fucking shows constantly because everybody gets to see you. So eventually you're gonna play in front of every agent, every fucking label. And this is back when labels actually signed bands by
And
looking
they
at their
actually
live
went and
show.
looked at bands and they just didn't see them
Right,
online and shit like that. Yeah, I
right.
get it.
And didn't have like a manager booking agent connection
The-
because
the-
then
the-
now that's all
the-
it is now.
It is. But what's weird about LA musically and like and with comedy and almost a lot of things is like there's so many people out here. It's the shows aren't as good, not from the performers place, but from the crowd. They don't come out. It's hard to get
Because there's
people.
always something going on.
Yeah, I know some comedians, they'll do these rooms and they're like, they can't, not that they can't, but they might not sell out a 250-seater room. But then you see them on Instagram when they like sold out a 15,000 arena, like in the middle of like Utah or something. So it's like, it's LA is a weird place for that because it's like, I don't think everybody's trying to be into music. I think there's just so much going on and everything's spread out and there's so much traffic. It's hard. I think it's when you're in a smaller town because, I'm from Kansas City. So learning how to ride bikes in Kansas City, I felt like would have been better than me trying to learn to ride out here. I have too many
For sure.
distractions. There you can like focus and get it get it dialed. And you know what I'm saying? Like it's
Yeah.
just different.
Well, I
So
think
probably
that
with music, you were able to build that fan base.
for
Not to say
sure.
that you couldn't do it back then in LA. Back then you probably could, but nowadays in LA, it's weird. Where are there even places to play? I'm scratching my head. You live out
Yeah.
here. You live out here. You get it. You know
Yeah.
what I'm
I
saying?
think that it's changed too, though. I think that there was a real thing in the 70s, 80s, maybe
Yep.
even early 90s where
Yep.
because you could be seen here.
Right.
Now you can be seen because of the internet, you can be seen anywhere.
Anywhere. Anywhere.
So there was that excitement of coming out to LA and doing that, and you hear the stories and shit. But yeah, I think that now it's just a different world we live in, like you said, and it is a little oversaturated with everything, and I don't know, like it's just
Well, the
everything
rules.
always evolves.
Yeah, the rules of the game change, but it doesn't mean you can't keep doing it. I mean, I see that a lot in comedy too. Like, I think with comedy to get known as a comedian back in the day is you had to be grinded in the clubs, which you do. You had to be out and you had to be doing your thing. You had to be doing shows all the time. But nowadays with the internet, it's like people do skits and they got 20 million followers and they're not grinding in the clubs. You know what I mean? Building their name as a comic because the platform just changed. That's all. Uh,
But it's true though,
I
does
think
it?
it's good. I think it's good though, in a way, to use the internet in a way to build your brand and who you are, and you can reach people. If people like you, they're gonna attach themselves to that.
But it doesn't always translate to the live show, like you said. It doesn't always
Of
do
course
that.
not. Of course not. It doesn't at
That's the
all.
thing.
Yeah, it doesn't at all. Seeing a band
Uh,
live is way better than seeing them on like YouTube. You know what I mean? Of
Right.
course. Like,
But I mean,
come
like, it
on.
doesn't mean just because they have, like, I mean, I look at bands and I'm like, fuck, they got like fucking way more followers than Mest does. I'm like, but you know what? Like, one, we never bought fucking followers. We don't do that type of shit. So like everybody that follows our page, they're legit fans. So it's like
Absolutely.
those numbers may be smaller, but but for us, that those people are there when we're playing. And it's not
Exactly.
always like that with other bands. So it's part of the, like I said, everything it's a different fucking state of
Well, everything nowadays, I think,
business.
yeah, it's a lot of it's pay to play, obviously. I mean, with the social media and promoting your brand and what you do, it's like pay to play promoting a clothing brand. You need to advertise yourself. And sometimes, as we all know, your algorithms, you may have like even people that have 1 million followers, they still are in an algorithm as well.
Oh, I know, it's crazy.
So, people, unless you have like multi-million followers, it's difficult to like, because it's oversaturated. So it's opportunity, whatever. We all get it. It's pay to play basically.
Yeah.
But that's okay. It doesn't mean you got to stop doing what you're doing. It doesn't mean that you can't be successful. If you're good, you're good, period. Right.
Right.
And you guys were good enough, and you still are, to get that at that level. Because I know from being from the Midwest, Kansas City was a little bit different than Chicago. Chicago had not more of a musical, but like there was more bands that came out. They had the whole Wax Tracks and all that kind of stuff. And then you
Yeah.
had one of my favorite bands of all time to this day is from Chicago. You might know them. They're called Peg Boy.
Yeah.
And those guys were amazing. So Chicago kind of had its own little thing going on. You know what I'm saying? Its own little
Yeah, I
thing.
mean, Peg Boy, Naked Ray Gun, Smoking Popes, like,
That's it. Yep, those guys too. Yeah.
and then like Alkaline Trio, sort of like I think the came
Yep.
from that. You know what I mean? Like that
Yep.
there definitely is a Chicago
And you
sound.
guys, and like there was just it just had a more of a musical thing going on. But I just think it's rad that you came from a small town and made it all the way to California to Maverick to get a deal. That's sick. Back when there was no internet, and I don't think kids really realize how much more challenging that is
For
than it
sure.
is nowadays. That's a whole nother mission. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah, now you got nowadays, like I said, I'm not going to dive into it too much, but there are like
Yeah.
TikTok stars that can get signed by
Yeah.
dudes and bands and, put out a record that three other kids that were in pop punk bands in the early 3000 or 2000s can write a record for him. And then now he's playing pop punk,
Yeah.
and
It's
wearing
just a
Descendant
numbers game.
shirts for sure. And that's the where you get into those numbers things where it's like, well, he's got fucking 2 million followers on TikTok. He could probably put out a record and sell some records. It's like, yeah, but why do that to the kids? There's other kids in a garage somewhere writing pop punk songs. Let fucking that band influence the next generation, Like, why have a bunch of people write songs for some TikTok kid? Like, what the fuck's the point of that?
Yeah.
Anyways, so we're moving on from that.
Yeah, yeah, we are. But that's a rad story. I never knew that. I never knew how you guys had, how you had reached where you're at because I just met you on Warp Tour, and so
Yeah.
or Huck Jam, maybe Huck Jam. But then I saw you at Warp Tour, and I was like, and so then I see you as a band. Did you do Warp Tour when you're in a wheelchair?
2003,
You did, right?
yeah,
What happened with
2003.
that? Why were you in a wheelchair? What happened?
That was '03. We were main stage that whole fucking run.
I remember that. I remember
I had
that.
a surgery I had a herniated disc and I couldn't opt for like physical therapy because time-wise, Warped Tour was coming up. I was just coming back from Japan and doing press over in Japan for like 3 days. And so they were like, well, your option is to do surgery. And I was in a lot of pain. Pain I didn't know before. Like there was the sciatic shit I'd never felt, and I was 22 years old. So they're like, yeah, just go have the surgery. So I went and had the surgery. And then first, I was maybe like 2 weeks post surgery, which you're supposed to take about like 3 months minimum, I think, to like be good before you start fucking around. I think I was 2 weeks out and Warped Tour started. First show, just jumped around like an idiot. Woke up that morning on my birthday, June 20th, turning 23 on Warped Tour, second day of Warped Tour, in tears, in so much pain. Like the fucking scar on my back, where it was cut, swelled up. So I had like a half a dick coming out of my back, like a sausage style, fucking down my spine. And
Ah,
I had to play that show. I wore fucking sunglasses because I was like in tears and that much pain. But I'm like, I got to play the show. And then yeah, I just got to the point where like I couldn't walk a lot. What happened, what was technically happening was a staph infection was slowly getting into my spine over the next 3 months. So I was in and out of the hospital 4 times. Couple ODs on the medication, like not like fun ODs. It was like I wasn't eating because I was in pain. So I was
right.
taking all these different medications they were giving me, and my body was just like one day just was like, okay, this isn't working. So like with like the steroids they were giving me, and then the fucking naproxen and Vicodin and all this shit, and then I'm chugging beer because I was wanting to drink because I'm in so much pain. One OD on tour, but it wasn't like anything cool. But did survive, obviously. In and out of the hospital 4 times. On the fourth one, Lyman, we were going into Canada. Lyman's like, all right, dude, you're done. 7 shows left. Go get fixed. Like, this is your fourth time in the hospital. And he's like, you can make up the shows next year or 2 years from now. We'll get everything sorted out. I didn't want to fucking do it. Uh, but they kept me in the hospital, flew me home, had emergency surgery, August 3rd. Warped Tour ended August 10th. Doctor told me, he goes, yeah, it was bad, dude. He's like, staph infection was in your fucking
Wow.
in your
Gnarly.
disc, entered your spine. Pretty much, he's like, you had about 7 days left to live.
Whoa.
So
Gnarly.
so Kevin Lyman saved my life by kicking me off
Yeah.
Warped Tour.
Dude, how rad is that guy? He's the
Yeah,
best.
he is. He's a good dude.
That's a
But
crazy story, man. That's all. That's awesome, but it's crazy.
yeah, so like that's what sucks is like that was my dream to do Warped Tour, right? And like that was how I got to do Warped Tour was fucked up on pills and in a wheelchair
Did you do it after
singing.
that though?
We did some in '05 and then a couple shows in 13, and then I think 2017 we were the special guest in Chicago. I think it was the second to last year or whatever. But never like that, like where I want to do the full fucking run. But the dream tour was like the nightmare at the same time, but
Yeah, I get it.
is what it
Yeah.
is.
You got to roll with the punches though, bro. It's sick though that you were like, going for it because most people you gotta chase it, bro. I'm from that world where you got a broken rib. You're like, all right, keep it moving. You know what I
Yeah, I
mean?
mean,
All
I
right.
fucking a third record had just come out, so I was like, I can't miss this opportunity to play in front of these people. So like, did what I had to do. It was
Yeah,
good though,
that's awesome. Dude, it's been awesome talking to you, bro. I just want to cover a couple more things.
for sure.
Uh, you got new music, right?
We have a new record, eighth
Yep.
studio record. Babe, can you shut that door?
It's your eighth.
Eighth studio record. Um,
Awesome.
Finished it a year ago. We filmed the video together about a year ago. That's
Right.
still that's still unreleased. But
You got to
so
release when you release it. I'm going to help promote this thing because it's sick.
yeah, it's getting close. The reason we haven't yet is we did a record in 2020. I toured a shit ton in 2019. Record came out January 2020. Our last record, world shut down. It fucked us. So I'm like, all right, I really recorded what I consider and everybody I've showed it to our best record yet. Like best friend
Right.
back at home that grew up with us was like, this is it. This is your best record. I'm like, all right, cool. So just trying to put all the ducks in a row because I still am very DIY with this shit. Fortunately, we signed with a label in Japan who's going to help us release it in Japan. We're working with Spam Records over in Europe. So we're covering a couple different countries and areas. Got to figure out what we're doing in the States. I might be doing it again myself and hiring companies, but putting all the ducks in a row because there's no point in fucking shitting out a record and then that's it. You know what I mean? Like this is,
Yeah.
like I said, it's
Yeah.
the eighth record, so like there's enough catalog for people to listen to Mest music, but we're reaching that point now where they're almost all in a row here. So once that happens, we already have like two videos done. It's 12 songs on the record. It's our fucking best record. I mean, I'm stoked. Like, I just don't want to waste it is the thing. So it's like,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah. And we did a good amount of touring this past year, like over 50 shows and shit. Went to Japan also. So just trying to make sure that I do because I self-manage and do all the shit myself. It's like, and then fucking five kids, you gotta like allocate
Finding that
time properly.
balance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Finding that balance, bro, for sure.
So just getting everything ready properly, figuring out the best ways to do this. Like, because the music business is forever fucking changing. So, just making sure that we got everything in the right places before we shit out the record.
Yeah, dude. And you guys, do you got management with someone I saw? What is it? Spam? What is it? How do you say it?
No,
S
Spam is
spam. Yeah, spam.
yeah,
Spam.
they're a label over in Europe that are gonna help us release over in some of the countries over there.
Yeah, I did their
Um,
documentary. I was in their documentary that's coming out.
yeah,
Yeah, and then they do their festival and stuff, right? They do their event
yeah,
over there. Yeah,
which we're
that's right.
doing. We're doing that next year.
And you got the Havasu thing coming up, right?
Yeah, Cabs band is playing that too. Like, I mean, London was
I
born
played
there.
that thing like 15 years ago with the Voodoo Glow Skulls, I think.
Well, what's it?
Not
Did
that
you
long
from
ago, or
Voodoo?
maybe 10 years ago or something.
Yeah, I don't. It wasn't the same thing though, right? It was just a show out there because
I don't know. I
this is
don't
like
know.
their second annual one. The singer of Voodoo used to have like a little club out there back in the
Oh no,
day.
no, it's not the same thing, but it's in the same area. It was a different name. It was called River something. I can't think.
I mean, there's only so many areas in Havasu, anyways. It's
Yeah,
let's be
that's true.
honest.
Yeah, I saw you guys playing with Cabs band, which is dope. Dude, so you think that there's a lot of buzz about pop punk as far as like, with the We When We Were Young festival and like just the vibe, but like do you see yourself, do you think that that's going to come back around and be like a thing again to tour with like that style of music?
Um, I
And I
mean,
don't mean that in a mean way because I know that the fans are loyal and people love this style of music. I'm just saying that like, you know, do you see like a Warped Tour vibe coming back? That's what I'm going
I
with it.
I don't know if we'll ever see a. I don't think we'll ever see a festival full run across the states of any style of punk, pop punk, just because I don't know. I don't see that forever happening,
Well, no
but
one's doing that though. Isn't it all just festivals,
it's
weekend?
all just weekend
Yeah.
festivals and shit like that, which is cool. I mean, I definitely undoubtedly there's been a little bit of a revival, not a fucking. I would say it's a generational cycle thing, right?
People seem
With
more
every
psyched on this style of music than they were 5 years ago.
There's younger bands doing it. There's another generation of bands doing their version of pop punk and punk, which is helping the older bands who are, at least hopefully they're looking into the bands that influence them the same way I did when I learned about bands that I liked. I went and found out what bands influenced them, learned about those bands. Hopefully the kids are doing that again. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, there seems to be a thing too, and I would say this where a music will hit its peak and there'll be a lull because that age demographic hits a
Yep.
certain point in their
Yeah.
life
Yep.
where it's college, starting families, working again. And then after they get that part established, then it's like, oh yeah, I still want to go out and have fun and do things. And I've got some money in the bank now. I can go have fun again. And then that's usually when that age range reaches a certain part in their life again. Then those bands get to pick up again. And I feel like that's a little bit of what is happening here with this. People call it emo, but I mean, how many of those bands are actually pop punk bands, But call it
Dude,
what you want.
dude, I'll tell you right now, Rites of Spring was emo.
Yeah.
Embrace, DC Movement, Ian McKay, all of them.
Yeah, right.
It's like
Right.
this people just want to title things. And
Right. You got to give it a name. I get it.
so they identify with it. But
Yeah.
where can somebody find you? Instagram and then Mess, if you want to drop that so we get you some
My
followers
Instagram
here.
is Anthony Lovato, spelled just like Demi's last name.
Yeah, I
Um,
wish you were related to Demi, dude. You just ruined this whole interview.
I'll look into it. I probably got friends who know her.
This network, bro. I got you. You know what I mean?
I'll,
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Anyways, and
I'll, I'll
so back to
DM her
you.
right now. I'll DM
Okay, all
her.
right. So your Instagram again is
Mine's Anthony Lovato. The band is the official Mest,
it is that actually.
right?
I
Okay,
already
I would
know.
figured
I
that
already
one.
know. I follow you. I like your stuff, dude.
And then for all of our shit, you go to mestmusic.com. It'll always have our tour dates. You can find merch there. Like we use that as like the home base for all the shiz. So you can
Awesome.
find everything there.
I
But check
admire
us
you,
out.
dude. I admire you and
Appreciate it,
respect
man.
you.
Same
You,
to you,
you.
buddy.
you never gave up and you're doing your thing and you're raising a family and that's badass, dude. And so just keep going because you guys rock. And I love you, brother. And thanks for doing this interview.
Love you too, buddy. Thanks for having me, man.
All right, stay rad.
Talk to you soon.
Peace.